Hello and welcome. I do hear you. Well, I do hope you hear me. And thanks so much for joining. If you already are joined, just want to check if everything is working as expected. And if you can hear me. Yeah, if you're here, just click the like button, click the hi button. Oh, yes, fun. Say hello. Let me just check here. YouTube Studio. Yeah, so welcome. Well, let's see. If you're here and joining it, it's good. This is what it's all about. Hi, great. I hope you can hear me and everything works out. So today I want to share a little story about how I got started with SAP, and this is about me getting into SAP 20 years ago, and I found out that this year, 20 years ago, I started my career doing enterprise development software. So that was let me just quite interesting to figure out what's actually going on and what you can do in that perspective. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And so yeah, I started 20 years ago. Yeah, you can hear me. Uh, so yes, audio is working good. Perfect. Yes. Yeah. So I was at university and there was some kind of event, and I think a lot of these things about your career is totally random, something you cannot plan. But others is like, well, what you're striving for will happen. And so 20 years ago, I was at an event called Power Breakfast, something like that, where viewers or customers where students and companies got together and the companies presented how they were doing different things. And I guess this was completely random. I joined that event. I think there was like 4 or 5 students, including me, and 2 companies presenting. And the manager from PPC was talking about some of their concepts within security and stuff like that. That looked sounds pretty interesting. Wrote, do you have a job or a student job for me to attend and see if that could be of interest? And I joined it, and that was got the job. And I remember the first day I was doing some reconciliation or some reporting of an SAP system. I'm not really sure what it was, if it was SAP sales data or finance. I had to join some indexes, some tables, head on table, do calculations on top of this with a data management tool called ACL. And that was pretty interesting. And I remember calling my mom when I got home saying, hey, this is pretty cool. I got a cool job and I'm still working on it, which was really nice at that time. And I stayed there for until I finished my education. And during this time, one of the things I got exposed to was SAP, because a big accounting firm in the security department, SAP is a huge thing for some of these clients. So there was a lot of discussion and debates of this. I remembered being told that some of these consultants made a truckload of money. And I thought, well, that would be interesting. Let's give it a try and see what it could be like. But it's like, how do I actually get to develop within the SAP platform and learn about that and what we can do there? It's like, sound a little too difficult to actually be involved with. But yeah. Yeah, so after during the time we also worked with the SAP system to try to set up different security things on it. One of my first projects was a lot on basis. So some guys had figured out that if you logged in with or if you send a login request to the web application and built in the SAP system at that point in time, it used a lot of memory relatively to keep the session and stuff like that. And we found that if we just send a number of requests, like 100, 1,000 requests, we could take up the memory of an SAP system, bring it down, and it's like, that's interesting. So I tried to build a Perl proxy in front of it that you could expose and do some limits on how many, or that it checked that this user was actually valid, and that worked. We didn't deploy it in a way, so I guess was kind of API management approach at that point in time. But I guess it would have been nice to have this kind of you can only make 5 requests a minute or whatever per unknown user. So yeah, if you have any questions, comments along the way, just put them into the chat, or click the like button, or we'll appreciate that. Cool. Yes. So after I finished university, I worked there. I had some interesting projects, and I thought, well, I want to try something. I want to be a developer. That sounds like the holy grail of IT. Hey, Mohammed, thanks for joining. And I got a job at that time small development company, doing a lot of custom development. Now they are one of the biggest one in the country, and I can see it's been interesting to see their process. I was doing some .NET C# development for a website, which was kind of fun to try something new, but not really what I wanted to do. I was not that much fun of doing graphics. And just before I started there, one of my former colleagues was working at a small consultancy and said, hey, Daniel, this new product from SAP is just called open. It's called XI30. It requires that you have a lot of Java experience, XML, HTML, these kind of things, and all the other things we can teach you. It's like, that would be interesting. So I interviewed for the job. Actually, I think I even interviewed before I started in the new job or something like that. But that was interesting. And then I started working with XI30, learning the platform, learning a little about ABAP, learning. And obviously, once you got on some projects, that was about how do you actually, what's SAP, and you needed to figure out all of these things in advance, and or as you got, and figure out why does this platform really interesting in that perspective. So that was how I got into the SAP world. Well, obviously, I wanted to get into that process, or wanted to work with it, but I'm not really sure if I had gotten the idea myself that working with some enterprise software would be interesting, and it would be much better just to do regular development if such a thing really exists anymore. And obviously, the part about doing integration was good. You learned a lot about how do you, what kind of system is involved, what's the processes behind it, trying to understand a lot about why things is as they are and stuff like that. And that was, I guess the best part of this, that there was a lot of technical stuff that you needed to be good at, but you also learned a lot about the business. What are the reasons we're doing this? And wanting to figure out how to do these governance things and stuff like that. So, and obviously working with SAP is still interesting. There's a lot of things going on. And I think, so at that point in time, there were, I think in the history, that was like in their late 1990s, just before the 2000 boom, a lot of companies was just hiring all people that said they could almost spell SAP, was the only criteria. And if you could spell it correctly on the application, it was okay. And there, obviously a lot of people joined at that point in time, and then it became, I think, a little more difficult to get some unskilled developers or people involved, because everybody is asking, hey, how many years of project experience do we have? And like, it was a little challenging for for consultant companies, customers to get new people into the SAP platform. I don't know if it has changed, if it's easier for new people to join SAP, and there's a more focus on how do we teach people how to do SAP. Obviously, I do think that at the current time, there's a lot of tools or techniques, and obviously, if you go to all these CAP cloud application model and these kind of things, there's a lot of new skills involved that older people don't really have, and in that perspective, that new people can also join the SAP without knowing all about what ERP backend is and what's the Barbie numbers, Barbies you need to create to handle these things. So I think that there's actually still a good opportunity, and obviously there's also a lot of skills that you can be taught, but it does require the company you're working for that say, this guy really knows what we are going to do, and we can see him working here the next 5 years, because I guess it's pretty huge investment in time and money to get someone aboard your system and figure out what you're about and how you can deal with these things. So if you have any questions, put them into the chat. I would love to hear your comments, takeaways. How did you get started with SAP? Because there's a lot of different stories on how you got started. How did you get involved with these things? And obviously there's a lot of other stories to tell, but I think one of the concepts is just keep it short and figure out how do we actually get into this integration. And I think so in the last public webinar live feed, one of the things we talked about was this thing about Java concatenation, and the reason I got that experience there was we were migrating an old ERP system on a mainframe over to Danish economy system at that point in time, and we needed somehow that the accountants could go back these 5 years and see for this user how many invoices did we create and stuff like that. And that was okay. We got a system up and running for it. I created a Java application to do that, and it was a Tomcat, I think, that were running, and then you had some JSP pages that could take this data and display it, and I had no idea how to do that in a good scale, so it was just plain HTML I was creating on the fly, probably using JSP or some servlets, and then it was just about, I was doing a lot of string concatenation, and that worked fine when we just had 5 or 50 entries. But then once we got to 100 entry for one of these accounts, it just took forever. Like, okay, I get the idea that this is something that took way too long time and to deal with. And obviously the tools, well, or maybe it was just me that didn't really know how to use them at that point in time. But obviously, as things go, you learn a little more about what's going on, how to deal with things and stuff like that. Any comments, questions, feedback? If you like this video, have some ideas on things I can also do, put them into the comments or chat. I always love your feedback about how this is going. So thanks for watching.